Gene Wilder, the comedic actor who invited us into his world of pure imagination as Willy Wonka and so many other iconic characters.
For years, Gene Wilder stayed quiet. He watched from the shadows as Hollywood took the role that made him a legend and twisted it into something unrecognizable. But when Johnny Depp's version of Willy Wonka finally hit theaters, Wilder didn't just disapprove, he snapped. He called it an insult, pointless, even grotesque. This wasn't just about a movie, it was personal. Because the Wonka Wilder gave the world was strange, yes, but he had heart. Depp's? Wilder said it felt soulless, cold, like watching a childhood dream get repackaged into a corporate nightmare. And when he finally spoke out, he didn't hold back. Gene Wilder versus Johnny Depp. Some actors become legends because they vanish inside their roles. Others earn that status because their characters feel like a natural extension of who they are. And when you look at Gene Wilder and Johnny Depp, you're looking at two completely different kinds of legends. Two unique performers whose paths crossed in one of the most unexpected ways. At the heart of that crossroads stood a top hat, a purple velvet coat, and one unforgettable name, Willy Wonka. Let's start with Gene Wilder. He never needed to raise his voice or perform theatrics to hold your attention. He didn't come off as loud or brash, either on screen or off. Instead, people remembered him as soft-spoken, introspective, and remarkably thoughtful. His genius lived in subtlety, in the way he could move you without trying too hard or demanding the spotlight. Long before he stepped foot inside a chocolate factory, Wilder had already made a name for himself with standout roles in The Producers and Young Frankenstein. His performances carried a rare mix, a quiet stillness that could turn wild without warning. He kept you guessing, not because he was unpredictable for the sake of it, but because every move served a purpose. That was his magic. Calm on the surface, but layered with hidden electricity. He didn't just play roles, he shaped them. When he signed on to play Willy Wonka in 1971, he didn't simply follow the script. He changed it. That famous moment when Wonka limps toward the crowd with a cane, only to somersault into a grin. That was Wilder's idea. He believed the audience should never feel sure about who Wonka really was. Was he kind or dangerous? Gentle or mad? That one physical trick, quiet and subtle, planted that question in your mind. And it lingered. Wilder filled the role with layers of ambiguity. His Wonka could shift moods in a heartbeat. Light-hearted one moment, icy the next. He recited poems like riddles, flashed warm smiles that hid something sharper underneath, and watched the children like a scientist observing an experiment. You couldn't pin him down. And that was the point. Now fast forward more than 3 decades. Tim Burton, with his love for the dark, twisted, and emotionally raw, decided it was time to retell the story. And to bring it to life, he turned to someone who had built a career out of inhabiting the strange. Johnny Depp. He was known for diving deep into characters, changing his voice, his walk, even the way he blinked. One day he was a pirate, the next he was a demon barber, and after that, a pale, socially awkward chocolatier with serious daddy issues. Johnny Depp was the king of bold choices. He didn't mind if audiences were confused. He liked pushing buttons. For him, weirdness was a tool, a weapon, something to explore, not hide. So when Tim Burton announced in the early 2000s that he was remaking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, everyone knew Depp was going to do something wild with it. The question was, how different would it be from the original? The answer? Very different. That's when the legacy of Gene Wilder and the rise of Johnny Depp crossed paths in the strangest, most explosive way. Two men, two Wonkas, but only one story that felt truly personal. Because for Wilder, This wasn't just another actor taking on a role. This was a man rewriting something sacred. So you've got Gene Wilder, the quiet genius, a man who believed in emotion, silence, and mystery. And Johnny Depp, the Hollywood daredevil, a man who believed in shock, transformation, and going all the way. They never acted together. They weren't rivals. They didn't even live in the same Hollywood universe. But thanks to one magical and controversial character, their names are forever linked. And once Gene Wilder saw what Johnny Depp had done to his Willy Wonka, he didn't hold back, not even a little. Wilder's deep emotional bond with Willy Wonka. Gene Wilder didn't just play Willy Wonka, he became him. From the very beginning, this wasn't just another acting gig or a box office play. This was something more personal. For Gene, the role felt like art. It was bold, it was eccentric, it was magical, and above all, it was deeply intentional. But here's the twist. He didn't say yes right away. When the producers approached him about starring in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Gene had one condition: not a bigger paycheck, not creative control over the script, just a very specific, very unusual request about his entrance. He said, "I'll do it, but only if I can do the entrance my way." At first, everyone was confused. What could he possibly mean? Then Gene laid it out. He told them he wanted to limp out of the factory gates, leaning heavily on a cane, barely able to walk. The crowd, he imagined, would grow quiet, watching in concern, maybe even pity. And then, right when everyone felt sorry for him, he'd drop the cane, flip into a somersault, and land with a grin. That one moment, Gene explained, would change the entire film. From that point on, no one in the audience would know whether Wonka was lying or telling the truth. And that was the entire point. He didn't want people to understand Wonka. He wanted them to question him, to feel just a little off balance. Not because he was cruel, but because unpredictability was part of the magic. And once the filmmakers saw the brilliance behind that idea, they agreed. That entrance became iconic. It wasn't just a clever gag or a bit of theater, it was character development in physical form, a psychological cue baked right into the first 5 seconds. And it worked. The audience didn't know if they could trust this man. And that tension? It never let up. But Gene didn't stop at the entrance. He sculpted Wonka's entire personality with the same sharp precision. Every line, every glance, every sudden shift in tone, it all served a purpose. He wanted Wonka to feel whimsical, sure, but also just off enough that you never quite relaxed around him. Take the scene where Augustus Gloop falls into the chocolate river. A chaotic moment, right? Most adults would panic. Most adults should panic. But what does Wonka do? Nothing. He watches blankly as Augustus disappears, then mutters, "Help! Police! Murder!" It's deadpan. It's hilarious, but also kind of cold. And that's the genius of Gene's portrayal. He walks this tightrope between charm and menace. Wonka isn't just a jolly candy wizard handing out golden tickets. He's calculating. He's watching. Testing. Every child in that factory is on trial, whether they know it or not. And Wilder makes sure you feel that. His delivery is dry and strange. His eyes flicker between delight and disapproval with no warning. He lets the children walk right into traps of their own making and doesn't lift a finger to stop them. That's not laziness. That's design. That's how Wilder built Wonka. Part moral judge, part mischief maker, part surreal magician. Even his warmest moments feel wrapped in a layer of performance. You're always asking, is this guy serious? Is he messing with us? Is he dangerous? And the truth is, you never really get an answer, because Gene didn't want to give you one. He wanted Wonka to be unknowable. This is what made Wilder's performance so unforgettable. It wasn't loud or exaggerated. It wasn't goofy for the sake of it. It was controlled chaos, the kind where every smile might hide a warning. Every soft word might carry a threat. He let you enjoy the ride, but made sure you never felt completely safe. So years later, when Johnny Depp came along with pale makeup, awkward smiles, and sad childhood flashbacks, Gene was not impressed. And who could blame him? To Gene, that version of Wonka felt off, too weird, too empty. It was missing the heart, the danger, the layers. It wasn't wrong, it just wasn't right, not for him. Because here's what most people don't get. Gene didn't hate Johnny Depp as a person. He even said Depp was a good actor, but he did hate what that remake did to his legacy. Wilder gave us a Wonka that made us wonder, that made us think, that made us feel. And to him, that was sacred. So when someone came along and turned that into something flat, loud, and hollow, yeah, he had a right to be mad. Because for Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka wasn't just a role. It was a piece of his soul. Johnny Depp, the wrong kind of weird. When Johnny Depp stepped into Willy Wonka's shoes in 2005, fans were curious. What would this new version be like? After all, Depp was known for his odd roles: Captain Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, the Mad Hatter. Weird was kind of his thing. But the moment Depp appeared on screen, people were confused. He wasn't charming, he wasn't mysterious. He was awkward, pale skin, shiny haircut, strange voice that floated somewhere between a whisper and a squeak. And that creepy smile? Yeah, that didn't help either. This wasn't the Wonka kids had grown up loving. This was something else entirely. Something colder. Something off. And here's where it gets interesting. Johnny Depp later revealed that his inspiration for the role came from Michael Jackson and old game show hosts. He wanted to play Wonka like a sheltered man who never really grew up. Someone disconnected from the world. Someone damaged. That's right. He gave Wonka a full backstory. A strict dentist dad. A childhood without candy. Emotional scars that never healed. And the movie leaned into it hard. Suddenly, Willy Wonka wasn't a mysterious candy genius. He was a man with deep family trauma and a really bad haircut. So, what did Gene Wilder think of all this? He hated it. But let's be clear. Gene didn't hate Johnny Depp as a person. In fact, he once said, "Johnny Depp is a good actor." The real problem? The way the character was changed. In Wilder's eyes, Depp's version took something magical and turned it into something weird for the wrong reasons. Because when Gene played Wonka back in 1971, he made choices, bold ones. He insisted on the limp and somersault entrance. Why? So audiences would never know if Wonka was friend or foe. That was the magic. Gene's Wonka was unpredictable, sharp, funny one second, ice cold the next. You couldn't figure him out. And that's what made him powerful. But Depp's Wonka? He explained everything. Childhood pain, fear of parents, social anxiety. There was no mystery left, and that's what bothered Gene Wilder the most. In a 2013 interview, Gene called the remake an insult, not just to him, but to the original story. He said, "I don't care for that director. He's talented, but I don't care for him doing stuff like he did." Ouch. He felt the movie wasn't made out of love. It was made for money. It wasn't about storytelling. It was about rebranding a classic for a new generation. And to someone like Gene, who treated the role like a piece of art, that stung. Even Depp later admitted, "I can understand where he's coming from." Because deep down, he knew. This wasn't just a remake, It was a reinvention. And to Gene, it felt like his version was being erased. Imagine spending your life building something you're proud of. Something people still remember 50 years later. And then someone else comes along, paints over it and says, "Look, new and improved." That's not a tribute. That's a takeover. And that's why Gene took it so personally. He wasn't being petty. He was being protective. To him, Wonka wasn't just a character. It was a reflection of himself. Clever, odd, mysterious, and layered. Depp's version may have been weird, but it missed the soul, the warmth, the danger, the depth. So yeah, Johnny Depp brought his own flavor. But for Gene Wilder, it was the wrong recipe. Why Depp's version hurt Wilder personally. Gene Wilder didn't just act as Willy Wonka. He became him. He spent weeks shaping the role. Every movement, every glance, every strange turn of phrase. His version of Wonka wasn't just a candy man in a top hat. He was a riddle, a question mark in a purple coat. And that's why Johnny Depp's remake hit him so hard. It wasn't just a bad movie. To Wilder, it felt like someone had broken into his old house, painted the walls neon, and called it an upgrade. Because Depp's version stripped out everything that made Wilder's Wonka so special. Wilder's Wonka was soft-spoken, but sharp. He smiled sweetly, then dropped chilling lines like, "The suspense is terrible. I hope it'll last." He wasn't just whimsical. He was dangerous. You never knew if he was about to hand you candy or push you into a chocolate river. That's what made him unforgettable. But Johnny Depp's Wonka? He was awkward. He was pale. He made uncomfortable faces and talked like he hadn't been around people in years. His version explained everything. His bad haircut, his weird behavior, his hatred for parents, all tied back to childhood trauma. In doing that, the film removed all the mystery. It made Wonka normal, not in behavior, but in reasoning. And Gene Wilder hated that, because when you explain every strange thing about a character, you take away their power. You flatten them. You turn them from something larger than life into just another guy with a sob story. Wilder worked hard to build a Wonka that kept audiences guessing. You didn't know if he loved the kids or was testing them. You didn't know if he was a hero or just messing with everyone for fun. That duality was the point. Depp's version erased it. Instead of tension, we got backstory. Instead of charm, we got awkwardness. Instead of danger wrapped in whimsy, we got trauma wrapped in weirdness. Wilder once said he didn't care for the director, Tim Burton, but look closely at his words and his tone. It wasn't just Burton's vision that upset him. It was the performance. Depp, after all, was no rookie. He was known for diving deep into roles, for becoming characters. And that's what made it worse. Wilder probably expected more from someone with that kind of talent. So when Depp delivered a version that felt cold, stiff, and distant, Gene didn't just feel disappointed. He felt betrayed. He didn't just see it as a different take. He saw it as artistic theft. This wasn't someone paying tribute. This was someone taking something personal and reshaping it until it didn't even feel like the same character. And to make it worse, the new version sold. It made hundreds of millions. It introduced a whole generation of kids to this version of Willy Wonka. Gene must have watched that and thought, that's not him. That's not the man I created. And maybe that's the part that hurt the most. He had poured emotion, control, and nuance into a role that became iconic. And now it had been replaced in the public eye by a pale imitation, literally and figuratively. Depp's Wonka was weird without warmth, performative without purpose. He felt like a character someone told you was mysterious, but you never felt it. Gene's Wonka made you lean forward. Depp's made you lean back. In the end, Gene Wilder wasn't just mad about a remake. He was heartbroken that something so close to his heart had been reimagined without understanding its soul. It wasn't just creative disagreement. It felt personal. Depp responds, "Too little, too late." Johnny Depp knew he had stirred something up. He could feel it. The backlash, the confusion, the whispers comparing his version of Willy Wonka to, well, whatever that was. And when Gene Wilder finally broke his silence and called the film an insult, the message was loud and clear, even if Depp tried to keep things polite. Depp didn't fight back. He didn't slam Wilder or throw shade at the original. In fact, he did the opposite. He said he respected Wilder. He said he got it, literally. In interviews, Depp said something along the lines of, "I understand where he's coming from." That's a calm answer, mature even. But let's be honest, by that point, the damage had already been done. Depp explained that he deliberately avoided watching Wilder's version when preparing for the role. According to him, he didn't want to copy it. He wanted to stay fresh, stay original, take the role somewhere new. He told the press he built his version around different influences, game show hosts, awkward recluses, even hinted at being inspired by Michael Jackson. The idea was to make Wonka someone who never grew up emotionally, someone who hid behind candy and control because of childhood wounds. Sounds deep, right? Maybe even thoughtful. But here's the problem. Most people didn't feel the depth. They just felt weird. And not in a good way. Depp's Wonka came off to many fans as cold, distant, and, honestly, creepy. Not mysterious, not clever, just strange. Uncomfortable strange. And no amount of creative explanation could shake that first impression. So when Depp said he didn't watch Wilder's performance out of respect, fans weren't buying it. Because Wilder's Wonka wasn't just a performance, it defined the role. Skipping it didn't feel like a respectful choice. It felt like skipping the blueprint. It felt like reinventing the wheel without checking how the last one worked. And Wilder, he didn't buy it either. He didn't clap back at Depp's apology or soften his original words. He didn't go back on calling the film an insult. Because for Wilder, it was never just about being copied or not being copied. It was about what the character stood for. Wilder had built his Wonka with intention. He layered him with charm, warmth, danger, and humor. You didn't know if he was a genius or a madman. That was the thrill. But Depp's version explained everything. It removed all the mystery. It told you why Wonka was strange. It told you why he didn't like parents. It gave him trauma, flashbacks, backstory. To some people, that was interesting. But to Gene Wilder, that was sacrilege. The magic was gone. And maybe the worst part? It was loud. Tim Burton's remake was big, bold, and brash. It had CGI squirrels, flashing colors, and over-the-top set pieces. Everything about it screamed spectacle. That was the opposite of what Wilder had done. Wilder's Wonka didn't yell. He whispered, he smirked. He raised an eyebrow and let you wonder. His version let the audience feel things instead of forcing them to watch things. So, when Depp finally responded with kindness and understanding, it didn't undo what had been said, or what had been felt. Wilder's silence, so carefully held for years, had finally cracked. And when it did, it wasn't just a review. It was a quiet heartbreak, a sign that a creative line had been crossed. For Depp, it might have just been another role, a chance to play strange again. For Burton, it was another chance to reimagine a classic. But for Gene Wilder, it was personal. He had lived that role. He helped write it, shape it, own it. And watching it get reworked into something unfamiliar, something cold, something that didn't feel like Wonka, That was the real insult, not just to the character, but to everything Wilder believed about storytelling. So yes, Depp responded. He stayed respectful. He said the right things. But by then, it was too late. The remake had already planted its new version of Wonka in the world. Wilder had seen it, heard it, felt it. And once you insult a legend's legacy, no amount of politeness can take that back. Fan reactions. Whether you're scrolling Reddit or chatting with friends, one question always sparks a fierce debate. Who is the real Willy Wonka? The two answers are clear: Team Wilder or Team Depp. And oh boy, the divide is massive. Let's start with Team Wilder. Fans say Gene Wilder's Wonka wasn't just a man in a purple coat. He was the candy man with secrets. He wasn't predictable. 1 second, he's sweet. The next, he's alarming. That uncertainty? Magic. Classic lines like, "The suspense is terrible. I hope it'll last," still give goosebumps. Dozens of memes, geeky YouTube videos, and heartfelt posts reference those moments. Even today, people say, Wilder's Wonka makes you lean forward. That's power. It's presence. It's what draws people in. Now, flip the channel to Team Depp. Johnny Depp gave us a pale, quiet man-child. Hurt, damaged, odd. Fans describe him as a trauma-coded recluse. He looks like he never hugs anybody, whispers like he's scared, and gestures like he's got no idea where he is. And you can't scroll through social media without spotting awkward Wonka memes mocking his weird stare. Some say it's dark, edgy, and unique, but others think it's just off-putting. So who wins online? Spoiler: Team Wilder. Social media polls routinely show Wilder's version pulling nearly 80% of votes. Fan edits and tribute videos almost always feature his scenes. YouTube comment sections behind streaming platforms, packed with messages like, "Depp was never hated more than when he replaced Wilder." These aren't random opinions either. They come up again and again every time Depp's version is mentioned. That's a pattern. But let's give Team Depp some credit. They argue the remake is fresh, modern, and visually bold. They say it digs deep into psychology and explores why Wonka became who he is. For some, that's enough. But even then, many admit it's not quite Willy Wonka. Many fans admit that when Depp's version started, all they could think was, "This isn't the Wonka I know." And that usually ends with someone saying they just miss Wilder. Here's the big difference. Wilder's Wonka gave us wonder. You lean in, you feel a chill, you smile at the mystery. There's tension and playfulness. You feel like you can't predict the next move. Meanwhile, Depp's version gives you answers. It explains the childhood trauma, the dentist dad, the weird behavior. But explanation turns mystery into math. The magic evaporates when you understand everything. One fan said it perfectly in a Reddit thread, "Wilder keeps you guessing. Depp keeps explaining why he's weird." It's stuck. And that's the moment you realize magic needs mystery. Imagine a song you love but never fully understand. It haunts you. You remember the feeling more than the words. Then someone hands you sheet music and says, "Here, now you know." You feel smart. But the song? Suddenly, it's boring. That's what happened with Depp's Wonka. He turned a feeling into a backstory. He told you why, instead of letting you feel it. Still, Team Depp isn't small. They like the bold visuals. They connect with the tragic hero vibe. They say it's a more grown-up version of a fantasy story. But even they admit it doesn't give you that electric feeling. Many defenders quietly confess, "Yeah, it's deep, but I still miss Wilder." And there's the thing. A character you can feel, not figure out. That's the legacy Wilder left. His version never sold out. It didn't need flashy CGI or long explanations. It needed mystery, charm, and tension. Let me ask you this. If you haven't seen the original, can you still feel that creepy grin during that famous somersault entrance? I bet you can. That's the power of Wilder's performance. You don't even need context, you just feel it. Team Depp might be modern and edgy, but Team Wilder is timeless. The debate will keep going. People will keep posting memes, and every so often, someone new will discover Willy Wonka and ask, "Why does everyone love Wilder so much?" That's the rehook. It reminds us, the remake may look new, but the original still makes hearts beat faster. In the end, the internet doesn't lie. Fans crave charm and tension. They crave unanswered questions. They want to feel the mystery of Willy Wonka, not have it spelled out. That's why, almost 50 years later, Gene Wilder's Wonka is still the one people choose. And until someone finds a way to match that feeling, he'll stay the Willy Wonka. The real reason Wilder hated Depp. At first, it really wasn't personal. Gene Wilder didn't go around hating younger actors just for stepping into roles he once played. In fact, he had always spoken highly of Johnny Depp's skills. He even called him a good actor in interviews. But when Charlie and the Chocolate Factory hit theaters in 2005, something shifted. Wilder wasn't just annoyed, he was deeply hurt. And over time, that disappointment hardened into something stronger, something close to hate. Why? Because to Wilder, Depp's version wasn't just a poor remake. It felt like a direct attack on everything he had built. His Willy Wonka wasn't just a job, it was a character he had helped shape from scratch. He had personally written parts of the performance, insisted on creative changes, and poured his soul into making Wonka feel mysterious, layered, and slightly dangerous. To Wilder, it wasn't a children's character. It was an artistic statement. Then came Depp's Wonka. Awkward, pale, emotionally stunted, and, worst of all, completely misunderstood. Instead of that quiet tension and unpredictable charm, Depp gave audiences a socially awkward man-child with deep-rooted daddy issues. The nuance was gone. The balance of whimsy and threat? Gone. In its place was a cartoonish, bizarre figure who made people uncomfortable. Not in a thought-provoking way, but in a "what is this?" kind of way. Wilder saw that and felt like his legacy had been bulldozed. This wasn't just a younger actor making bold choices. It was someone taking a character Wilder loved and turning him into something unrecognizable, something almost laughable. For Wilder, this wasn't about ego. It wasn't about competition. It was about the soul of the story, about respect. And to him, Depp, and Burton for that matter, had none. Wilder hated that Depp's Wonka was being watched by a whole new generation who might never see the original. He feared that his carefully built masterpiece would be remembered as the weird old version, while the awkward, disconnected one became the new normal. So yeah, it wasn't personal until it was. Until it felt like someone had reached into his past and rewritten it badly. That's why Gene Wilder couldn't forgive Johnny Depp. Because for him, this wasn't just a movie. It was the final blow to something he had once called his greatest work. Wilder poured his soul into Wonka. Depp turned him into a pale shadow. What the world saw as a quirky remake, Wilder saw as a betrayal. This wasn't just a performance. It was his legacy under fire. Like, share, and subscribe for more buried Hollywood truths they tried to hide.